The Battle of Kursk was one of the most significant military engagements of the Second World War and took place between July and August 1943. It is widely recognized as the largest tank battle in history and a decisive turning point on the Eastern Front. The battle occurred near the city of Kursk in western Russia, where Soviet forces faced a massive offensive launched by Nazi Germany, known as Operation Citadel. After the German defeat at Stalingrad in early 1943, the strategic initiative on the Eastern Front began to shift toward the Soviet Union. However, the German High Command still hoped to regain momentum by delivering a powerful blow against the Red Army. The Kursk salient, a large bulge in the front line extending westward, presented an opportunity for a double envelopment. German forces planned to attack from the north and south, encircle Soviet troops, and destroy large enemy formations. The strategic importance of Kursk was immense. For Germany, victory would restore confidence, weaken Soviet forces, and potentially force the USSR into a defensive position. For the Soviet Union, successfully defending the salient would permanently shift the balance of power and allow the Red Army to launch large-scale counteroffensives. Unlike earlier battles, the Soviet leadership, including Joseph Stalin and the Stavka Soviet High Command, had accurate intelligence about German plans. Soviet reconnaissance, partisan reports, and intercepted communications revealed the timing and direction of the German attack. As a result, the Red Army prepared an unprecedented defensive system in depth, consisting of multiple defensive lines, extensive minefields, anti-tank ditches, and fortified positions. The Battle of Kursk was not only a clash of armies, but also a contest of industrial and economic strength. By mid-1943, Soviet industry had surpassed German production in tanks, artillery, and aircraft. This industrial advantage allowed the Red Army to replace losses more effectively and sustain prolonged combat. Thus, the Battle of Kursk represented a confrontation between Germany's last major offensive effort in the East and the Soviet Union's growing military and economic power. The outcome would shape the remainder of the war on the Eastern Front. Both sides committed enormous resources to the Battle of Kursk. The German army assembled some of its most experienced and best-equipped units, including elite Panzer divisions and newly developed weapons such as the Tiger and Panther tanks, as well as the Ferdinand tank destroyer. In total, Germany deployed approximately 900,000 soldiers, 2,700 tanks, and over 2,000 aircraft. The Soviet Union responded with even greater force. The Red Army concentrated around 1.9 million soldiers, more than 5,000 tanks, and nearly 3,000 aircraft. Soviet commanders such as Georgy Zhukov and Konstantin Rokossovsky emphasized defense, understanding that absorbing the German attack would exhaust enemy forces and create favorable conditions for counteroffensives. Soviet defensive preparations at Kursk were unprecedented in scale. 8 defensive belts were constructed, extending up to 300 kilometers in depth. Millions of landmines were laid, making German advances slow and costly. Artillery positions were carefully planned to provide overlapping fire zones, while mobile tank reserves were kept behind the lines to counter breakthroughs. German preparations, in contrast, were hampered by delays. Adolf Hitler repeatedly postponed Operation Citadel, hoping to introduce new weapons in greater numbers. These delays allowed the Soviets to strengthen their defenses further. While German forces possessed advanced technology and highly trained crews, they faced shortages of fuel, spare parts, and air superiority. Air power also played a crucial role. The Luftwaffe attempted to support ground operations through concentrated airstrikes, while the Soviet Air Force focused on disrupting German supply lines and protecting ground forces. By 1943, Soviet pilots were better trained and more numerous than earlier in the war, reducing German dominance in the air. The contrast between German offensive doctrine and Soviet defensive strategy defined the initial phase of the battle. The Germans relied on rapid armored thrusts, while the Soviets aimed to wear down the attackers through attrition. This fundamental difference would determine the course and outcome of the Battle of Kursk. Operation Citadel began on July 5, 1943, with heavy artillery barrages and airstrikes. However, Soviet forces had anticipated the attack and launched preemptive artillery fire, disrupting German formations. Despite this, German units advanced on both the northern and southern flanks of the Kursk salient. In the north, German forces under General Walter Model encountered fierce resistance and made limited progress. Dense minefields, strong defensive positions, and constant Soviet counterattacks halted the German advance within days. The northern assault failed to achieve a breakthrough. The southern sector saw more intense fighting. German forces led by Field Marshal Erich von Manstein advanced deeper into Soviet defenses, leading to the famous tank battle near Prokhorovka on July 12. Thousands of tanks clashed at close range in chaotic and brutal combat. Although losses were heavy on both sides, the Soviets successfully stopped the German advance. The Battle of Prokhorovka became one of the most symbolic events of the entire war. While historians debate the exact scale and outcome, it marked the moment when German offensive power was decisively broken. The Red Army committed its strategic reserves and prevented any German encirclement. By mid-July, it became clear that Operation Citadel had failed. Hitler, alarmed by the Allied invasion of Sicily and mounting losses, ordered the offensive halted. The initiative passed permanently to the Soviet side. The Red Army then launched powerful counteroffensives, including Operation Kutuzov in the north and Operation Polkovodets-Rumiantsev in the south. These operations liberated Orel, Belgorod, and Kharkov, pushing German forces westward and inflicting severe losses. The consequences of the Battle of Kursk were profound and long-lasting. It marked the final major German offensive on the Eastern Front. From this point onward, the Wehrmacht was largely on the defensive, retreating under constant pressure from the advancing Red Army. German losses at Kursk included hundreds of thousands of soldiers, vast quantities of tanks and aircraft, and, most importantly, experienced crews that could not be replaced. The failure of advanced German weapons to achieve decisive results also undermined confidence in technological superiority as a solution to strategic problems. For the Soviet Union, Kursk was a decisive victory that demonstrated the maturity and effectiveness of the Red Army. Soviet commanders showed skill in planning, coordination, and execution of large-scale operations. The victory boosted morale and confirmed the USSR's ability to defeat Germany through sustained offensive operations. The Battle of Kursk also had broader implications for the global war. It coincided with Allied successes in Italy and increased pressure on Germany from multiple fronts. Germany's strategic situation deteriorated rapidly after 1943, leading ultimately to defeat in 1945. Historically, Kursk stands as a symbol of industrial warfare, strategic intelligence, and the importance of preparation and defense in depth. It showed that modern war was not decided by a single weapon or commander but by the combined strength of economy, intelligence, leadership, and the endurance of soldiers. In conclusion, the Battle of Kursk was not merely a military confrontation but a turning point that shaped the outcome of the Second World War. Its lessons continue to be studied by historians and military strategists around the world.